Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on AI chatbots and how they're transforming businesses today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really happy you could be here. We hope that you're all safe and healthy. My name is Veda, and I'm a part of the digital team at Value Labs, and I focus largely on our AI and ML projects. The past few months have altered our lives, both professionally as well as personally, and quite significantly, I would say. There's been a lot of uncertainty, new ways of living, new ways of working even. Every single business has been focusing on their own business continuity plans, right? Innovating to ensure that this new normal works and works well. The truth is that every business has been affected in different ways. Over 50 to 60% of the call center business across the world was hit by the pandemic. And the plan is to bring in chatbots and automation to address basic call center operations. I think estimated to save over half the current spend, close to $50 billion if I'm not mistaken. In fact, recently, I was reading about how when the pandemic hit, there was suddenly unavailability of government staff, directly affecting a lot of the state call center agents, right? Due to the inherent physical setup of the call center itself. A lot of people working in close proximity to each other. And that, unfortunately, today is not conducive to our environment. But also, given the situation, there was a sudden influx in the number of calls coming in from residents of different counties asking about the virus, symptoms, guidelines, questions about finances, insurance-related questions, etc. Now, everyone in the IT department had obviously heard of AI chatbots before, basically computer programs that could address user questions automatically, but it previously put them off either because they assumed they would be too expensive or they would be too complex to implement. But given the need of the hour and the demand that they had to meet, they configured commonly asked COVID-related questions on one of the popular chat platforms, right? And had chatbots answering these questions for users within a matter of days. There you go. It's the classic necessity is the mother of all invention quote. Plato said this about 2,000 years ago, and strangely, it rings so true to this day. Today, chatbots are being used by governments across the world, grocery stores, financial services companies, healthcare providers, just across every industry, and not just to serve end consumers, but also to streamline internal processes, improve collaboration, and reduce time to information, which is extremely relevant in an environment of extreme remote working today, right? That being said, we've all probably seen chatbots on many websites and applications, but used and remember very few, which brings me to the agenda for the webinar today. We're going to start off by talking about the changing priorities of different businesses today and the changing digital landscape. Then talk about why chatbots are relevant and the advantages of using chatbots. We'll then get into details of how to go about designing a great chatbot, a chatbot that people will use and remember, and also talk about the common pitfalls that we should avoid while designing a chatbot. Then we'll also walk you through a few case studies along with demos so you get a sense of how they may look and flow for users. Then we'll talk about how you can get started on your own chatbot journey, and we'll end with a round of Q&A. So before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick minute and introduce Value Labs for those of you who may not be aware. Just some fast facts, and then we'll jump right into the rest of the webinar. So we're a 22-year-old global technology company. We're spread across 30 locations worldwide today. We have over 5,500 employees, all working from home currently. In terms of what we do, we have a product development heritage. We have teams that focus on quality assurance, data insights and analytics, cognitive design and UX is a part of what we do as well. Most of the clients have actually been with us for over 10 years and have grown with us in the process. So many of them have started small and grown with us over the years, which is also reinforced by a client net promoter score of over 75, which is in fact more than double the industry average for software companies. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues Rangafani, who heads the digital team for us, and Akshay Ivaturi, who heads the automation practice, and that's me, Veda. So before we get into the presentation, I just wanted to just give you some updates and set some ground rules. The presentation itself will go on for the first 45 minutes, followed by a round of Q&A for 15 minutes. So we wanted to be interactive, get as many questions as we can. But if during the duration of the presentation itself, you have a question which you feel needs to be addressed immediately, you can use the raise your hand feature on WebEx and our team will sort of get in touch with you on a one-on-one basis. Otherwise, you can just put your questions down on the Q&A window and our team will answer your questions towards the end. We'll also put up some polls during the course of the presentation that we'd love for you to answer. We'll let you know when they show up so you don't miss them. Just one last thing. When the webinar ends and you log off, you'll find a feedback form open up on WebEx. If you could just take some time and fill in that feedback on the webinar, just what you liked, things that you would have liked for us to touch upon, that would be fantastic. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, I just wanted to bring in Funny to set the context of the webinar, talk to us a little bit about changing priorities for businesses today and a little bit about the changing digital landscape before we dive into the nitty-gritty of chatbots. Funny, over to you.
Thank you, Vera. Welcome everyone. A very warm good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. I'm Funny and I'm part of digital consulting at Value Labs. As part of this practice, we help our customers with all things digital, right from cognitive automation, data engineering, analytics, all the way to AI and ML. And today we will specifically talk about chatbots, how they have come of age with a little support from AI, and how they are impacting organizations to serve both internal and external stakeholders. Most of you may have seen this already in one of your social media feeds. Who is leading digital transformation in your company? While it is funny, this is not far from the truth. The COVID pandemic has changed the things. Even most digitally advanced organizations had to push the envelope and get creative to face this challenge and advance on their transformation roadmap. For example, at Value Labs, we never thought that there is a need to get to 100% remote workforce enablement. But we have to make necessary changes and adjust to this new normal and ensure that there is no drop in productivity for our clients. This has been the case even with technology giants like Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, you name it. My personal view, digital transformation is an ongoing journey. There is no definite destination. Technology keeps evolving and new avenues keep opening up that will help us technologists improve efficiencies and drive costs down. However, different organizations are at different locations in this journey, and we Value Labs have worked with over 200 of our customers across the globe in helping them achieve their transformation goals. These companies varied in size and are from different industries. This enabled us to develop frameworks, best practices, and IP that would help accelerate your transformation initiatives. Pre-COVID as well, everyone was on digital transformation journey, but COVID-19 has altered the priorities both for digital transformation and within digital transformation too. Pre-COVID, if you have looked at any of our customer landscape, probably these were the digital transformation priorities: personalization, product focus, customer focus, automation within logistics, integration, etc. The order may have slightly varied depending on where that company was on their transformation journey, but more or less this was the order of priority. Post-COVID, the picture changed to this. Automation is at the top of the list for almost all the enterprises across the globe now. We even got new entrants like data security, which was an implicit priority earlier, but that became an explicit priority because of the way everyone is interacting with the enterprises. Need for information and triggering a workflow based on the information is on the rise. Equipping stakeholders with data-driven insights and allowing them to make informed decisions become the key. From this perspective, chatbots that are connected, smart, conversational, and information-driven are the need of the hour. Akshay and Veda will walk you through some of the exciting work we are doing in this space and what our approach to deploying these bots is. Our framework will help you identify the areas and prioritize the implementation of these chatbots. Akshay?
Thank you so much for that, Funny. And thank you everybody for being here today. I'm really happy you could join us. So I think Funny has set a great stage for understanding why the need for digital transformation has never been stronger. The COVID pandemic has changed the priorities for many companies, and now companies are seeing that they need to reduce their ops cost in order to stay afloat and even come out ahead after this whole COVID pandemic has ended. So the best way in order to reduce your ops cost is automation. It is an incredible way for you to reduce expenses within your company and utilize your human capital for any other initiatives. Now, chatbots are an incredible way for you to house that automation. Chatbots are a way for you to interact with your end customer and allow your end customer to trigger any sort of automation workflow on the back end that you may need. Now, this was a study that we saw in Forbes, and it says 83% of consumers said they'd make messaging their primary means of communication. And this is important because if consumers are ready to converse with a chatbot-like system as a communication for, let's say, a e-commerce site or for figuring out some sort of order issues that they have, then that means that the customer themselves are comfortable with using a chatbot-like platform. So the need to evolve with the customer has come through, and we need to make sure that the chatbots that we're creating are user-friendly, they allow you to derive real business value, and that the chatbots are able to do whatever you'd like them to do on the back end in terms of automation. So I want to talk about why chatbots are so great, right? There's some points here. The first one is 24-hour service and instant responses. And these are really important because if you're a global company, you would have to staff live agents that are available around the clock. Whereas if you have a chatbot will be available at all hours of the day and will allow instant responses for your end consumer. Next, consistent customer experience. And this is very important, especially now, because as Funny has talked about, location has been digitized. So if you have live service agents now, there is a chance that your live service agents aren't sitting in an office space anymore. They could be sitting at home, and a home environment, there could be noise, there could be distractions, or various other things that can prevent the environment from being clean and stable as an office environment would be. So chatbots are a way to ensure that the experience that your customers are getting are consistent. Next, scalability. And scalability is important, especially for companies that deal with peak season times. If your company has increased volumes at a certain time of the year, then chatbots are a great way to deal with that volume. Because if you're using live service agents, then your chatbot, then you need to be able to predict the volume that you will have in terms of the number of live service agents that you'll need to handle that increased volume at that particular time. And if you overestimate, then now you've spent too much on that endeavor. And if you underestimate, then your end consumers are just waiting, and that's never a good customer experience. So chatbots are a great way to ensure dynamic scalability, because assuming that you've deployed your chatbot correctly, you can always make sure that your chatbot is spinning off more instances as needed dynamically as the volume of agents you need increases. And lastly, assuming that your chatbot is designed and deployed well, you can have some great cost savings. So we're going to be covering 3 different types of bots here, mainly the first 2, guided and NLP bots. And so I want to talk about guided bots first. And so this is what a typical guided bot could look like. On the top, you'll see that there's the bot introducing itself. And you can see in the middle, we have things like my orders, my shipment, customer service, and more information on our products. So this is an example of a guided bot for like an e-commerce industry. And you can see that here in the pick from a particular disposition, and then the bot can respond. So that's what guided bots are. They are good for structured conversations with your consumer. The end consumer can choose from a particular set of predispositions, and then the bot can then answer based on a predetermined flow. And so guided bots are great. If your flows are good, and if it does not sound like it's a clunky bot, it can be really powerful if it's done right. And once you guided bot in place and you've done any backend integrations that you need, your bot can be quick to market. It does not require training as an NLP bot would. And guided bots also give you more control because they won't allow your end users to ask free-form questions. Now, next, I want to talk about guided bots. And I found this and I thought this was interesting. This was a tweet where somebody had tweeted to an airline and they said, "Thank you for sending my baggage to Hyderabad and flying me to Calcutta at the same time. Brilliant service." And so the bot has said, "Glad to hear that," right? The bot here has interpreted the intent of what the end consumer was trying to say, and it thought that it was complimenting it. So having an NLP bot has to be made correctly, and if it is, then it can be really good. So I'm going to be passing it off to Veda to talk about that. So Veda?
Thanks, Akshay. So, I mean, NLP bots are definitely more tricky to implement than guided bots, like we saw in the example Akshay just showed us. But basically, NLP bots, as the name even suggests, have natural language processing and natural language generation components to them. So basically, users can ask open-ended questions like we saw in the previous example. They are typically used for more complex use cases, either when we're dealing with a lot of unstructured data where the bot needs to be able to pick up answers from, say, video, audio, or text-based content, or if you're trying to create a conversational bot, where the bot needs to interpret what the user is trying to say, the user's intent, and respond like a human would without necessarily having certain predetermined configurations like we would have in a guided bot. So, and while these NLP bots address more complex scenarios and they have the ability to learn over time because they are built using machine learning algorithms, we obviously have less control over the output itself. And therefore, a lot of times we've seen these bots being used as assistants to agents or assistants to humans, at least in the beginning. So as the agents validate the responses that are coming out from these bots, the machine learns from the feedback until the confidence is at a level where they can be deployed to work autonomously. So that's about NLP bots. Another interesting thing I wanted to touch upon at a high level, although during the course of the webinar, we won't go into details, with voice bots. With voice bots, what they are is basically a wrapper on a guided bot or an NLP bot. So depending on the use case, you'll either build a guided bot or an NLP bot or a hybrid. But we add that speech to text and text to speech component on top of it so that the users can interact with the bot either through their Google Assistants on their phone, Siri, or their Google Home or Alexa devices, right? In fact, a lot of the companies that are approaching us today are asking to build in these wrappers because it's a much more interesting way for users to interact with the bot versus typing their questions in. That's one. It's completely hands-free. And most importantly, today, a lot of users have these devices in their home or sometimes even in their work environments. So it's a lot more accessible today as well. And it's likely that going forward, your voice will control all your devices. So in fact, if you're in the UK right now, you can use your Alexa devices to ask health-related questions, and the bot will actually retrieve the answers from the NHS website. I think it was done primarily to ease the burden on overstretched doctors and hospitals, and also to help the elderly and disabled who may struggle to access such information otherwise. So we just wanted to touch upon voice bots at a high level, but I also, just to add, I think we have over around 300 people on the webinar right now, but I think the attendees will only be able to see and hear the presenters and the host on webinar. So it's no technical glitch if you're not seeing all the 300 people show up on your WebEx window. Akshay, back to you.
Thank you for that, Veda. So I want to show you something next. This is a prototyping framework that we have, a rapid prototyping framework that you can use to go ahead and create either a guided bot really quickly. So here, let's say we're creating a bot for a banking or finance space. You can go ahead and upload an Excel file that has the flows that you need. And once you've uploaded this engine will go ahead and automatically put those flows into a guided bot flow. So you can see here, we've uploaded an Excel sheet, and now the flows from that Excel sheet are coming up in this guided bot. And I can see things like my apply, pay, bill, etc. In my Excel sheet, in my flows, I can even put sub dispositions. So here, something like electricity bill, land bill, etc. And so this is a way that you could go ahead and rapidly prototype a bot that you'd want to see without having to go through and develop that bot from scratch to understand whether or not the flows look good and whether or not they would feel good in a test scenario for your end customer. Next, we want to show you how you could rapidly prototype an NLP bot. So here, if we were rapidly prototyping a bot for the safety space, we can go ahead and upload unstructured documents that then our NLP engine can go ahead and traverse. And so we've uploaded those documents and now we've launched the bot, and the bot now has the ability to go ahead and look through those backend documents and pick out answers specifically relating to the questions that we're asking it. So here, we're asking it a question, and what's happening is when I click enter on the back, the bot is actually searching through that documentation and then is going and saying, hey, let me go pick out this answer. And you can even go ahead and check the PDF and pick out exactly where that answer had come from. So you can go ahead and see yourself the context around that answer. And you can go ahead and respond whether or not you feel the answer is relevant. So this is just a little sneak peek. We're going to do a bit more of a deep dive into some use cases later on, but this is just a quick example of how you guys could go ahead and use this engine to rapidly prototype a bot in a situation that you'd like, so you could go ahead and see how it feels for your end consumer. Now, let's talk about designing a great chatbot. There's a lot that goes into it, and primarily when you want to go ahead and design a great chatbot, you want to make sure that you're delivering real value to your end customer. And this could be triggering any automation on the back end or making sure that you don't have broken flows, which is usually what happens and is usually why people feel like chatbots aren't a very good solution, or you never want it to feel like a chatbot is not addressing your concerns. So I like to start with, when you're understanding how to create a chatbot, you need to start with understanding the current state. So if we take the example of an e-commerce industry and you have live service agents, what is the current response templates that your live service agents are using? What training material are you giving service agents? And how are they going about responding to your end customers' questions right now, or any issues that they might have, right? What exactly is the current process, and what historical data have you stored about these issues? Have you aggregated data? Have you labeled it? Do you have historical data that we can go ahead and look like? And this historical data is important because once you have that, you can go ahead and do a disposition analysis. And what this disposition analysis means is we're trying to go ahead and understand the root causes and any self-service limitations that your platform might have. So let's say that you're an e-commerce industry again, and we're looking at a large bank of historical data of all of the issues that your end customers have come and contacted you about. Understanding these root causes in this large bank will help you put it into these disposition buckets. So let's say we're looking at this historical data and we're seeing, hey, I have an issue here where an order got shipped to the wrong address. I have an issue here where my order was broken when it came in. I have an issue here where my order came late. I can take all of those issues and I can put it into a disposition bucket of, let's say, order issues. And if I was creating a guided bot and my order issues were the biggest one, I could take those order issues, I could put that at the top of my guided bot flow, like you guys saw earlier. So that's the top of my issue. And I know that this is top of my customer because I've looked at that data and I know that this is the disposition bucket that is most relevant to my customers. So doing that disposition analysis allows you to go ahead and then design the flows in your chatbot, be it guided or be it NLP, the flow that your end consumer will take when they're actually going ahead and conversing with your chatbot comes from understanding that data and then prioritizing the intents of the end customer. So if we're always seeing things like issues or something like that, we know that we can put those intents on top. Next, integrations with APIs and CRMs are so important. And I can't stress this enough. Because let's say, again, e-commerce industry, now I've ordered something and I have an issue with my orders, right? Let's say I get on this, it's a guided bot flow, and I click on order issues. Now, if this bot is not plugged into those CRMs in the backend that can get that data, all of a sudden I've clicked on my orders and the bot just says, okay, if you have an issue with orders, let me transfer you to a live service agent. Whereas if your bot is connected to the APIs and those CRMs, if your customer is coming to you with the issue of, I've accidentally typed in the wrong address, you can go ahead and open up and the bot can say, hey, no problem. You can go ahead and type in the address right here. I can go ahead and update that for you, and I'll send you a new tracking information. Your product should be there in 3 to 5 days. So those integrations with APIs and CRMs are really what allows you to get that business value and trigger that automation on the back end that you may need. And lastly, when you're designing the chatbot, you want to make sure that you're putting in the right recording devices so you're understanding all of those metrics, right? Let me see where my consumers are dropping off when they're conversing with a chatbot. Let me see where my customers are actually getting to the end and they're saying thank you, and the chatbot is actually resolving that issue. Let me see how many get transferred to a live service agent. And so it's important that you have integrations with live service agent platforms. Because in reality, if you look at it, it's not really possible for a bot to be able to handle all the issues, right? There'll always be some edge cases, some extraneous situations where a bot's not going to necessarily be able to handle it. So being able to train that customer to a live agent immediately, carrying forward that history, carrying forward that intent, so the end customer doesn't have to reiterate or regurgitate what they've already said to this bot, is very important. It's great for customer experience. And we want to make sure that the end consumer is never having to do more than 4 or 5 clicks, right, in a guided bot flow, or never really having to ask too many questions in an NLP type situation. Because once they get to that point where they feel like the guided bot is frustrating, we want to make sure that they always have the ability to just transfer to a live service agent. Now, beyond that, make sure you have omni-channel integrations. So when you start a conversation on your laptop, you should be able to continue that conversation on your phone or your iPad. And lastly, when designing it, you need to have really good analytics in place. Now, this is an active learning platform that is done based off everything that you're now recording within the bot and that data that you're now taking in. So let's say in that guided bot flow, if you figured out that, hey, I have order issues, and let's say that you've addressed those order issues, and now product issues are top of mind for customers, your guided bot is able to reprioritize itself and put the fact that now product issues are the biggest issue on top and move order issues down. So that reprioritization comes from having a solid active learning platform that is reprioritizing those intents as your business is going on and as your customers are interacting with that bot. Also, having analytics in place, understanding where people are dropping off and what they're exactly at, talking to the bot can give you information that can be baked into a product improvement roadmap. So for example, if your end consumers are always coming to your bot and asking questions like, hey, I'm not sure where to go to reset my password, or hey, I'm not sure where to go to type in this coupon code, you know that these are issues that you now have to go ahead and put into your product improvement roadmap. So you're making that customer experience better and maybe changing the UX UI for your platform. So this is a little bit about the analytics, and I found this too. I thought this was pretty interesting. So the person on the left is saying that was surprisingly easy. Robotic uprising used rocks and spears instead of missiles and lasers. And the person on the right is saying, if you look to historical data, the vast majority of medal winners use pre-modern weaponry. So thanks to machine learning algorithms, the robot apocalypse was short-lived. And this is funny, but also in this particular situation, because you want to make sure that the data you're taking in, you're not just using all of the data that you need. Maybe your business requirements are changing monthly or even weekly. So you want to make sure that your bot can go ahead and reprioritize itself as you need it to based on your business requirements. So that's about designing it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about template for design. Veda, was I missing anything there?
No, Akshay. I mean, you covered everything. In fact, the design of the flows, that part itself is such a mammoth task. And it's really where a lot of the design, tech, and integrations work sort of comes together. In fact, a lot of times you'll find folks defining their use cases and then jumping right into creating the bot off of some chat platform. But this isn't just a tech play. It's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of situation all the time. Design is an important aspect from a chatbot's point of view. And that's why I think a lot of the IP that we have created over the years in this space, apart from the technology IP, of course, has to do with toolkits that help us assess the current state of the service and then design and prioritize the flows for the chatbot. So for example, if today you have 10 interactions that are happening manually that you want to botify, so take lead generation or FAQs or order status requests from end consumers, or even internal approval workflows, right? How do you assess if those interactions are good fits to automate? How do you design the automation architecture and visual interfaces? And how do you then choose which of those interactions you want to implement first? A lot of this actually doesn't come to the forefront when most people talk about chatbots, but from a business perspective, all of this is actually very valuable. So our toolkit consists of assessment forms, templates, prioritization metrics, etc. And today I'll actually just walk you through one such template at a very high level. It's extremely detailed, but if any of you want to go through the entire template in a detailed workshop sometime in the following few weeks, we'd be happy to set that up as well and do this kind of whole process end to end for you. So the template itself starts with the documentation of the current state, as Akshay said earlier. So the template contains details about what you should be filling in, like what are your dispositions, the nature of those dispositions, etc. So for example, for an e-commerce company, order status could be a disposition. And today you could either be providing that information to the user proactively, or it could be information that the user is seeking from you. So it could be alerts or information that you're providing. Or say banks are providing information on the current balance status, right? Insights could be provided on top of that, like your spending patterns and detection of any fraudulent activity, right? In fact, bots from many popular banks are providing insights like this and information like balance information, bill payments, etc. So the first step is to actually document all of these dispositions based on your particular use case. Then you'll also document who your stakeholders are, the persona of your consumers, what are they seeking from you. So their entire current state. Another important aspect of your current state is the systems that are involved and the integrations that are already being done. So say you're using SAP, right? So say you're using SAP for your finance or supply chain processes. You use SAP for a lot of things today. So what are the inputs like timesheets, vendor details, and then what are your outputs? In fact, today, a lot of bots are integrated with systems like Athena Health to help with things like appointment bookings, bill payments, health-related information, etc. So in your current state documentation of your systems is very important because when you're designing your chatbots, system integration is very important to make the chatbot relevant. So to have it all documented in one place is a good practice. Through this process, you'll also assess the relevance of your disposition based on the urgency and the importance. So ultimately, resources will be limited and you'll need to be able to prioritize what you want to botify first. And that's why this aspect's also important. And then you can go ahead and display the entire process in a journey map with sub-steps, the stakeholders that are present in that sub-steps and the system that are involved in that particular sub-step. Then we have the gap analysis. So this basically includes your state of the art and best practices, both internal as well as external. Now, the reason we do this is because say you have your star agent or your star sales guy addressing customer concerns, right? You want the bot to be able to replicate what they do. You want the bot to be able to follow up at the optimal times, use the right words. You want it to be able to institutionalize those best practices. So that's why this becomes important. And once you do this, you also have the to-be flow. So designing of the flows, you'll have flow charts within the template that you can fill in, interaction designs that you can sort of plug and play that will help you visualize how the chatbots or automation will visually look like and flow for the users. But obviously, this is the real meat of the entire template, and it's hard to cover it in the webinar because we have limited time, but we'll go through it for your specific use cases within the workshop itself. So it'll be comprehensive then. The last part of the template, however, is the prioritization. So here we assign a score to the service based on the priority. So based on 3 filters primarily, based on first, what is the priority of that service based on a few factors. The second filter is based on the nature of the service. So is it operational? Is it tactical? Is it strategic? And the third filter is your cost and revenue impact of going ahead with the automation, basically your ROI. So if you have 100 services that you've identified to be good fits to build into a chatbot, you want to start off by implementing the ones that give you the best bang for the buck, right? And that's why it's important to pick the right flows to automate first. It's very relevant actually when we're going for a phase-wise implementation. And during the workshops, we'll actually walk you through some live examples and case studies that are relevant to your businesses to help you through the entire process. So it shouldn't be an issue when we do it in the workshop. So that's it for the template. What do we have next, Akshay?
Thank you for that, Veda. So next we have some case studies. And what we're going to be showing you is two examples. One is a guided bot for an e-commerce industry, and we're going to be showing you an NLP bot secondly. So these are based off the frameworks that we have internally, and I'm going to go ahead and play this video right now. So what's happening, a guided bot. In this guided bot, a person can go ahead and log in. And this is important because now you can go ahead and get all of that customer information in the back end. You automatically have that available to you in the bot. So now they have the option to chat with us, and the bot introduces itself. And now you can see this is that dispositions that I was talking about, right? Those disposition buckets are now all here. And the ones that are on top are the issues that are top of mind for that customer, or the most relevant issues. Once I click that, I can see all of the actual orders that that person has ordered. And this is because I'm fetching that information from the backend through those APIs. So now this person has clicked on the particular product that they have an issue with, and now I can see the sub dispositions. And this too is also part of the app learning. You need to put the sub dispositions on top that are also the most important. So let's say they click wrong product received. Now the bot can go ahead and tell you, hey, you can click this link and to go ahead and fix that. Or if you want, you can now chat with the live customer service agent. You can go ahead and call them, or you can go ahead and end the flow right there, right? So in this simple example, though it might seem simple, there's a lot of things going on in here, right? So first, if you're looking at it, the ability to log in is that API connection. You're getting all of that important information. And next, when I was talking about those dispositions that they see, these dispositions, like my orders being on top, being second, these are because we've gone ahead and done that disposition analysis. We've understood that, hey, orders are the biggest things that customers are having an issue with. So let's make sure that this is on top right now. And then it goes through that guided flow. It goes to those dispositions. It goes to those sub dispositions if you need them to. And then you have the option to chat with that live customer service agent whenever you need to, because you never want to go ahead and get to the point where they're feeling like the bot is not really solving their issue. You want to go ahead and allow them to chat with that live customer service agent after just a few clicks. You want to make sure that they can go ahead and just get that out of the way, and you're transferring all of that history also to that live service agent. And now even in here, we want to have that analytics. So let's say that they had gotten to those sub dispositions and their issue was not on here, right? They may get frustrated and just drop off, and they may not even click need more help. Now, then you know that, hey, maybe there's an issue here. Maybe this is a broken flow. I can see that this is an error. Let's go ahead and assess this and try and figure out how to fix it. And all of this then goes back into understanding, how do we reprioritize these dispositions? What does this active learning platform look like, etc. So this is how a guided customer service bot could look like. And I want to pass it to Veda to talk about NLP bots.
Thanks, Akshay. So just some context about the demo before we start. It's not as if guided bots and NLP bots are somehow exclusive, like you either build a guided bot or you either build an NLP bot. In fact, a lot of times we use a hybrid bot approach where certain frequently asked questions are addressed through predefined responses or a guided flow. And for questions that may not be anticipated, they get transferred to an NLP bot. That's an architecture that we've seen works well. And the one that you'll be seeing in the demo is a variation of this as well. So in this demo, you'll see our NLP bot working in the background. So the bot here will address questions regarding safety policies and regulation information that the employees need to comply with. So we can go ahead and start the video. Here we'll see that we're asking a question about saying one of my employees has come to me and told me that they're pregnant. What am I required to do? by the policy of the company. So that's the question. This is a commonly asked question, and it was configured in the guided flow. So the bot understands the response that is needed to be given to the user. It asks a follow-up question to the user, and based on the user's follow-up question, it actually provides relevant links and articles, etc. So that's the guided bot flow of this entire bot. Now, say you ask a question that is not as common, like what is the minimum first aid provisions that I'm required to provide, right? So what is the minimum first aid provisioning? So here the bot actually goes through the guided bot flow, realizes that there is no answer that's been configured for this question, and then gets transferred to the NLP bot. The NLP bot then identifies the right document that contains the answer, presents it to the user, and also provides the user with the document that it picked the answer up from. So you see the highlighted part is the precise answer, also providing additional context the user can make more sense of the exact answer. The bot also asks the user on the relevance of the response, which is fed back into the bot, so subsequent iterations can be made more accurate based on this feedback. The other thing that the bot needs to be able to do is understand different ways of asking the same question. So is full operator training is one way to ask the question, and the response is provided in a similar fashion like we saw before. But there's other ways to ask the same question. So the other way could be, is it essential that I do full operator training, right? So you and I, different people will ask the same question differently, and the bot needs to be able to understand the intent accurately all the time. So here we see, irrespective of how the question was asked, the response is still the same. And the thing with NLP bots is that because you're asking for relevance and the customer satisfaction on every response, you're actually giving the bot the ability to learn based on user feedback. So if a particular response is not as relevant, you present the top 5 other answers, and if one of that is more relevant, then that weight is increased. So next time you're getting a more accurate answer. So it keeps improving over time, and that's why we suggested training period with NLP bots as well. I mean, when you package it as a demo, it obviously looks very simple, but this is actually a complex scenario to solve, and the bot actually needs to be able to pick up on nuances and respond accurately as much as possible. And the other thing here is analytics again, right? It allows us to understand the customer satisfaction based on responses, understand what are the commonly asked questions. If there are any questions that are getting constantly redirected to the NLP bot, can they be added to the guided bot flow so we have more control over the responses? So it's a continuously evolving model, basically. And we've implemented similar architectures for the pharma industry, safety and audit companies, standards companies for their internal processes, even insurance companies, basically to answer end user questions on different lines of business. So a lot of different use cases for similar types of architecture. Back to you, Akshay.
Thank you, Veda. So up till this point, we've covered some use cases. We've covered the journey of designing a chat. We've understood how you could go ahead and prioritize what services need to be utilized by a chatbot, and then the following automation. So really, chatbots can be so powerful. You can use them internally, you can use them externally. Honestly, sky is the limit when it comes to thinking about what you could be using a chatbot to automate. So creating a chatbot, really, when you're getting that value, it's not just about spinning up a really cool chatbot that does some basic conversation with your end user and then maybe classifies some queries and then sends it to a live service agent. Really what happens is a chatbot can deliver value to you when you've designed it based on your business objectives, right? So if you're trying to do something like increase your CSAT score, then designing a bot with end-to-end automation that can go ahead and do that is an incredible way to actually give a great customer service experience to your end customer. So understanding your business objectives and then asking yourself, do I have the right data, right? Looking at the data, making sure that I understand what my customers are contacting me about, why are they contacting me, how can I build this into a bot? And Veda had made a good point. It doesn't just need to be an NLP or a guided bot, right? Both can be used in either situation, and you can even have hybrid architecture if that's what your use case calls for. So understanding that data, understanding the journey that your customer is taking, decoding that, and then determining what you need in order to create a chatbot is how you could go ahead and understand how you could get started on your chatbot journey. So when we go about designing a chatbot, we've traversed the digital landscape of the different types of user interfaces, the different types of natural language engines that you could use, and all of the different system integrations that you would need in order to pull out that information that you want the bot to be able to utilize. So we've gone through this entire digital landscape before. And so really, to sum it all up, creating a great chatbot comes from having a solid design practice, having great UX, UI, having great conversational flows, understanding the data, being able to deploy it accurately, and making sure that all of these are coming together in order to create a great chatbot for you. But all of these competencies coming together is what allows you to create a fantastic chatbot. And we have all of those competencies here at Value Labs, and that's how you could go ahead and get a great chatbot that can deliver fantastic value to you. So thank you.